Hello, I'm Pika, and welcome back. In the release date trailer for Splatoon 3, they showed brief gameplay of a new sub-weapon, and now we finally know more about it. This is the Ingleshooter, which is a marker that travels a set distance and bounces off of surfaces that it comes in contact with, creating a line behind it that deals slight damage and applies the point sensor effect to any opponent that touches it. Due to the sensor effect, we can assume that this is not just a new sub-weapon, but actually a rework of the point sensor sub from the first two games. And I absolutely love it. As a recap, point sensor in Splatoon 2 is a sub that you throw out and it travels like a bomb, creating a radius when it hits a surface that marks any enemies within it over its duration, and lingers for a couple seconds. It's great for checking for enemies behind walls or around corners. It can watch flanks for you for a moment while it lingers. It doesn't deal any damage though. It could be somewhat clunky to use at times because it travels rather slowly. It could get caught on pieces of terrain that you don't want it to. So overall, it isn't very popular at high level play. These things change with Ingleshooter though, whereas the community will likely call it Marker. Marker maintains point sensor's purpose of marking opponents to make them visible through walls and keeps the lingering aspect that sensor had. Due to how the projectile travels and bounces, it can also still be used to clear areas and hit enemies hiding behind cover, similar to how a bloblobber can play around terrain. Like I mentioned before, Marker also deals damage. We aren't sure exactly how much it does, but this solves one of the main weaknesses of point sensor in the past, which is that while being marked is annoying, it doesn't hinder your gameplay directly, so opponents could often push through a sensor without any worries. Since the line set by Marker threatens damage along with the sensor debuff, opponents have to think twice before choosing to run through it. Even if the damage dealt by Marker is small, this hesitation is still a powerful tool, especially since Splatoon 3 looks very fast and aggressive so far, so any tool for creating and holding space for you and your team is valuable. What I'm most excited for is how flexible this sub-weapon looks. As far as we know, the line can bounce any number of times until it reaches its max length. Think of it like a curling bomb. When used in an open space, it travels a far distance and sets a straight line. When deployed in a tight space though, it bounces many times. It can more thoroughly check and cover a space. Because of this, Marker can be used to control space in two ways. One way is to throw it into a tight space and have it bounce around a lot, which would be similar to Splatoon 2 point sensor by having a concentrated but thorough presence in whatever area you choose. The second way is to throw it down an open area, where it travels straight for a long distance and sets a line down that entire space. It may not bounce around much or at all in this case, but since the line lingers for a few seconds, you can discourage opponents from crossing from one side of an area to another. And if they still choose to do so, you'll see them get marked and be aware of it. This is something that point sensor could not do nearly as effectively as Marker will be able to. And by the way, Marker, at least in its current state, is similar to point sensor in that you get to throw two of them at once off of one ink tank, looking like it costs between 40 and 45% of your ink tank per use. So you can absolutely spam these things. More markers means clearing more space in less time, and perhaps you can even layer two of them on top of each other to deal double damage and make a line even more threatening for an opponent to cross. Overall, having an old utility sub-weapon become more flexible and faster paced is awesome to see, and fits right into the theme of Splatoon 3 so far. They took a neat concept for a sub and point sensor and fleshed it out, keeping its old strengths while also giving it all sorts of new options and uses. I can't wait to learn more about it over the coming months, and perhaps we'll see even more sub-weapons be reworked in interesting ways. What sub would you like to see reworked and how? Let's get some discussions down below. Anyway, that's all from me. If you enjoyed, consider leaving a like and subscribing, since I'll be covering more stuff like this in the lead up to Splatoon 3 and making guides once the game drops. Thanks for watching, and have a good one.